It sounds like a brand new plan altogether, because I do know that this government has been moving with Delta Beyond Oil, and one of their cardinal points has also been agriculture.
Yeah.
But it would seem that you're not continuing that, are you?
That's a continuity. But I'm saying we're going to deepen it, because when we flagged off that consciousness, when His Excellency flagged off that consciousness, at the state of the economy, oil had not dipped. Oil price had not even dipped. So he saw tomorrow. And that's a statement of fact. But where we are today, we must connect ourselves and emphasize exactly the consciousness that he has started. We need to implement them. Government is a continuum. You will agree with me. We now go back to the farms. We now go back to agriculture.
But the thing about agriculture is, how do you hope to convince maybe a young person who perhaps used to, hypothetically now, free oil money, or maybe he works a little bit and then the money comes in? Agriculture, do you know how it is with agriculture? You have to have that patience. The banks to give you access to credit is another challenge by itself. So how do you hope to sell this to people?
It's mechanized agriculture. It's not the typical cutlass and hoe agriculture. As I speak to you, His Excellency the Governor Dwyer just got in about 46 tractors and plows and implements. We have plows, we have borrows, we have harvesters, we have spreaders and all that. He has also ordered for another 47. And I'm also sure that all of these are in preparation for focusing or deepening agriculture, as you call it. So what do you have? Instead of using your cutlasses to cut the bushes, to fall the trees, you are using tractors to do that, and that's large scale. You are using implement as plows and borrows and arrows. And you are using those implements to also spread your chemicals in terms of application of fertilizers and co. So that's very critical. That draws exactly people into the farm. You are also you're also going to empower them with improved seedlings and best practices in terms of extension services. And that's very critical. You cannot take the youth of today to the old farms or old farm settlements that you have. There must be some element of technology and ease with which they're going to do business. And so that's what we're focusing on.
You see, the question, Chairman, if I might tag on to that, he asked a question about convincing the youth
mindset change.
Mindset change. How are you going to move these people from a mindset of work a little, make a lot of money from the oil sector, which has been the mainstay, so to speak? How would you get them to begin to move to a point where they have to put in extra? I mean, if you're planting, let's say you're doing a farm thing now, you say mechanized farming, but it's going to take a while for the crops to mature, and then you harvest, and then you now begin to look for how to transport them. And they've also talked about issues of roads not being enough and adequately built to transport these goods to the market. So how would that work out?
In the first place, we have huge unemployment ravaging the system. It's a Nigerian thing. Now, most of the youths are actually ready. So you look at those youths who are prepared. It's a function of interest. And then you begin a mindset change.
Is there a difference between ready and prepared?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But you start a mindset change. If you express interest that you are interested in agriculture, because it's just one of those things we're putting on the table. There are several other things we're putting on the table. If you express interest that you want to get into agriculture, and a lot of people are, because we have communal farms running in Delta State. We have organized farms. We have YETA, that we have youth employment through agriculture, has been a program that has been running. All we need to do is to it. People still walk up to say, we want to expand these farms. You provide facilities. But the first thing is interest. Second is a mindset change, which is a generic thing that you must say to practically everybody. At this stage in our development, we need to move from point A to B. The white-collar job is not as white anymore, and it's not available. And given the kind of dysfunctional education we have in the university, in tertiary institutions, and even in secondary schools today, that has no vocational content in it, this is the direction. We're providing one for you. And I am sure when they see your preparedness and your preparedness to also empower them, give them starter packs to do what they want to do, we'll start from there. If the sub-Saharan African farming culture practice says a hectare gives you 5 to 15 tons of cassava, and you are moving it to starch production, which is about 22%, 25% of that for starch. You already know the final cost, unit cost, or per kg of what 1 ton will cost you if you sell the finished goods. So when you set up a farm, we equip them with modern implements and then best practice in terms of extension services. You already have at the back of your mind that the yield here will cost X amount. If it costs 10 naira, you now provide from day one, start making payments up to a particular level to leave a margin of profit.
You're going to pay this farmer ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Now, let's look at, you mentioned something about starter packs.
Yes.
There are two things you've talked about: mindset change and starter packs,
Yes.
so to speak. So what does the starter pack entail?
A starter pack means that once you're through with your program, or whilst in that program, you get remunerated one end if you are in farming, in agriculture, which means on a monthly basis, given that we already anticipated the yield from your farm, and we have modular industries in your environment to take up as off-takers for this produce, for your produce. We know how much margin that we'll be making from that transaction from the other end, from the private sector end, because we're working with private sector. What that means is that if it's 10,000, 15,000 naira, or 20,000 naira that you deserve to be paid on a monthly basis, we'll work that out, having the end in mind.
When you say the modular industries, we know that industrialization has been a problem, so to speak, because of power issues and all of that. I was going to ask you a question about the Delta Steel Company. What's happening to that? Is that part of your plan? But let's look at the modular industries. How many industries do you have that will buy all these products from these farmers that you're planning to bring forth?
Interestingly, I was in charge of commerce and industry, so I think I'm in the best position to answer that question. If you have a 1 ton per hour cassava, smaller industries, and let me start by saying that the reason why you have modular industries is because of power challenges. So you have about 150 kVA, 100 kVA to power such equipment. And then if you have 1 ton per hour, a 1 ton per hour, if you are running a cassava, like what we have in Nuzere, which is operational as I speak to you, a 1 ton per hour technically means that you need about a pickup load is 1.5. A pickup load is 1.5. So if you do 1 ton, if you do 9 tons in a day, it means that you need how many pickup loads now? You need well over 8 pickup loads of cassava to produce 9 tons. Sorry, 1.5. A pickup load is 1.5 tons. So if you do 9 a day, you multiply 9 by about 20 pickup loads in a day to run 1 cassava plant. And I can tell you, you don't have that supply readily available in the system. So if you have 4 modular cassava processing plants, like we're doing in Delta today, it means that you're going to it's going to be a pull effect. You're going to drive supply of cassava from that end. And government is keen into it. Government is keen into it because we have huge savanna land in the Ogume axis. We have all over the entire Delta, Igundu area, in Abraka area. And we have 2 seasons in Delta State. So cassava is a staple in our state. But while it's a staple, it's in short supply for industries. Even the use of the cassava plant still goes to Edo axis to get cassava. Well, look at the fish feed mills that we have just established. We have 4 fish feed mills. All the equipment are here. 2 factories are there. We have 1 in Aloshimi, which is my village. We have 1 in Uwe, which already exists. All the factories are almost completed. We have 1 in Asaba, and now we have 1 in Ubejanagokoda. It is we do 1.2 up to 9 millimeter production, fish production, in terms of from infant to table fish, because the production differs. So if you have to do that, you have to establish a farm for maize. Maize is critical. The ecosystem here gives us about 2 tons per hectare, while in Kogi it gives about 7 tons per hectare.
So
we
what
need
you
to execute.
what essentially you're planning to do is go back to the land.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're telling the people is going to be the pivot of your administration.
Yes.
Agriculture.
Agriculture and industries.
And industry.
Yes.
Agriculture
on a PPP basis.
to feed industries on a private,
On a public-private partnership basis.
partnership
To
basis.
provide professional management of those businesses.
Now,